Good.
Sorry, Elizabeth, we are live and ready. I was grabbing
Thank
that
you.
from Raven real quick. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the January 19th, 2022 Mercer Island Arts Council regular video meeting. The time is now 6:34. I'm Elizabeth Mitchell, Chair of the Arts Council, and tonight's Arts Council meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The video of this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel later this week. City staff, liaisons to the Arts Council, and other panelists are also participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members may be listening to the meeting by telephone or online. Welcome to all, and thank you for joining us tonight. Board members, please ensure that your microphones are turned on for roll call, and will staff please call the roll?
Amy Barnes, Anna Maya, Rachel Bloom,
Present.
Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Present.
Rosemary Moore,
Present.
Suzanne Scone,
Present.
Tonight's agenda will not include in-person public appearances. However, individuals can speak to the Arts Council on any item, provided they have registered their request to speak with city staff by 4 p.m. today. Staff, is there anyone who has signed up for appearances that wishes to address the board?
no signups. Chair.
All right. Our first item of regular business is to review and consider approving meeting minutes. Board members, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 8th, 2021 meeting?
This is Suzanne Scone, and I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Suzanne. Do I have a second?
This is Rachel Blum, and I second the motion to approve the minutes.
There is a motion by Suzanne Scone and a second by Rachel Bloom. Staff, please conduct a roll call vote. Board members, please turn on your microphones.
Amy Barnes, Anna Maya, Rachel Blum,
Rachel, your microphone is not on.
I think she said approve.
Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Approve.
Rosemary Moore,
Approve.
Suzanne Scone.
Approve.
Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Our second item of business is to discuss hosting a Mercer Island Arts Summit. For this item, we welcome Ryan Daly, Recreation Division Manager.
Good evening and thank you. Before we move to this item, I do want to just touch base with the Arts Council tonight on the agenda as a whole, knowing that we have a number of absent members as well as a member who has to leave early. So I would like to propose that we only do items 2 and 3 tonight on your agenda to make sure that we have a quorum to be able to engage in those conversations. And then staff will provide item 4 and the department report, item 5, in written form. And I'll be reaching out hopefully with the chair to talk with Arts Council members and answer any questions that they may have specific to those items that we would mail out. So just looking for a thumbs up, or actually, you know what, I need a motion to remove those items. So I would pass it to you, Chair.
Great. Can I have a motion to remove those items from tonight's meeting?
I will move to remove them.
Thank you, Rosemary. May I have a second?
Rosemary, I'll second your motion.
Fantastic. So there is a motion by Rosemary Moore and a second by Rachel. Am I saying it right? Bloom or Blum?
It's Blum, like plum.
Got it. Okay. Rachel Blum. Do I do something else?
Just a vote.
Oh,
Sorry.
staff, can you take a vote?
Amy Barnes, Anna Maya, Rachel Blum,
Approve.
Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Approve.
Rosemary Moore,
approve,
Suzanne Scone.
Approve.
All right, I will jump back in then. Thank you for the formalities. I understand, right now it's the beginning of a new year and there's a lot of moving parts for a lot of families. And so getting through these first two items here helps staff to move forward with our work plan and delivering on the goals that the Arts Council has. So with the first item, the Mercer Island Arts Summit, and that's something that is sort of identified in your 2022 Arts and Culture Work Plan as priority number 3, to garner community input and support for city arts and culture. Staff provided a report on that within your agenda packet with some details. But one of the first areas I would like to ask is, one, is the Arts Council supportive of moving forward with some sort of an arts summit or community engagement forum? And so if I saw 4 thumbs up here, I can move on to question number 2. Perfect, there we go. That's outstanding. So that's great to hear, because it is important for us to engage the community, specifically the different arts and cultural organizations on the island, to really make sure that we're meeting the needs and figure out where the city fits and what its role is in delivering those services. So the second question, and I'd love a little bit of conversation and discussion within the Arts Council on what is the council looking or hope to receive to help inform on future recommendations they may make. So specifically, as we hold or host this arts summit of various stakeholders, what information would help the council informing their 23-24 arts and culture work plan? And I will also say it is completely fair to put this on the subcommittee to help to develop.
So I think that is a great idea, unless anyone wants to jump in, which I'm happy to hear. I think it would be a great thing for the subcommittee to figure out how they want to handle this.
No, I agree with Elizabeth and Ryan.
Okay, so what, just to kind of highlight what I'd be looking for from the subcommittee work would be probably only, 2 to 3 meetings leading up to a March summit. Staff would be utilizing the subcommittee to help develop the topics of conversation, where we're going, what we're looking for, and what those outcomes we desire are. So it would be really a working group, a limited number of hours, preferably 1-hour meetings that we can move through and help to give staff direction on what deliverables we may be looking for. So with that being said, if there's a motion to, I think I wrote it in the packet actually, so I don't need to jump over it, but to recommend the Arts Council establish a committee to provide input and review staff coordinated public engagement opportunities specific to priority 3.2 of the City Arts and Culture Work Plan. That would be outstanding.
Well, I'm going to take that cue, Ryan, and I'm going to say, board members, may I have a motion to establish the Mercer Island Arts Summit?
definitely. I will move as you say.
Thank you, Rosemary. And is there a second?
Rosemary, I will second your motion to establish a Mercer Island Arts Council
Excellent.
Summit.
Thank you, Rachel. So there is a motion by Rosemary Moore and a second by Rachel Blum. Do we take a vote?
And just to be clear, this is the establishment of the subcommittee and not necessarily the summit. So we would take a roll call vote here, and then it would be at the discretion of Chair Mitchell to solicit the forms of intention from the rest of the council to be placed on that subcommittee.
Right. So the vote now is just if we would like to establish.
Yes.
So staff, can you please?
Amy Barnes.
you.
Oh, excuse me. Anna Maya. Rachel Blum,
Approve.
Eric Gordon, Elizabeth Mitchell,
Approve.
Rosemary Moore,
Approve.
Suzanne Scone.
Approve.
Fantastic. So I am going to take this opportunity to say that I would love to have anyone who is interested in being on this subcommittee to please email Raven and CC me on it. So I'm not asking anyone to sign up right now or commit right now. I'd love for you to take some time and think about it and email interest. Unless there's any other questions or
I
comments.
have a question. So Ryan, we'd be looking for three people because we can't have four, right? And
Correct.
I guess my other challenge to the group would be to maybe each of us like create a paragraph or something just as a starting point for that group, even if we're not on the committee. I mean, one of the things that comes to my mind, if you know, some kind of survey that goes out to these groups. And obviously the challenge is asking, you know, what questions to ask. But I mean, even saying we want to take a survey is a recommendation. So I wonder what other people's thoughts are about how we can go about this. So.
I mean, I think that's a great idea, Suzanne, even if you don't want to be on the subcommittee. I think that obviously contribution is always appreciated.
Yeah, and kind of maybe not just how we go about what outcomes are we looking for? Yeah.
I would ask Ryan if is that something we want to discuss here in this meeting, or is that something that the subcommittee would be discussing?
That would be you've heard this from me a few times today, at your discretion, Chair. I do think the conversation here is extremely helpful. It gives me a good lens for what the council is looking for. And so as much discussion as you're comfortable with having today is helpful. I do think Councilmember Scone on her example of a paragraph and sending that information to staff, it helps me to understand where you're coming from. Whether it's a paragraph or whether it's a phone call conversation is very helpful to me as we figure out what we're really looking for. And there's no OPMA concerns in that conversation.
I'd be happy to open the floor if anybody would like to comment or contribute at this time, what they would look for in goals for that subcommittee.
Can I just say, just following on from Suzanne's suggestion of a paragraph being sent to staff, should that be just sent to staff or should it be copied to Elizabeth, or is it better just to send it to staff at this point?
At this point, I would send it to staff. We would compile all of those and we would share it equally with the full council.
And by staff, do you mean you or Raven or both?
It would be best to send it to Raven. She's probably much more organized than I am, but it's great to CC me on it as well.
Thank you.
And I guess we're just sort of free for all here. I'm wondering what has been done in the past by the city and what measures have been taken in the past as far as community satisfaction, and priorities. So that would be helpful to know from staff. For example, 1,000 people wrote in and said they loved music in the park, and only one person said they liked, or maybe the one person complained about a sculpture or something. I don't know. Just some starting point that says, in the past, what's been happening in the past? How have we done this in the past? And what information did we get? And was that good information, or do we need more? Or
yeah, I think from a staff point of view, we've done a number of things in the past. Surveys, obviously, opportunities to engaged through the pros plan or public engagement through the Arts Council or the Parks and Recreation Commission have all been aspects. I don't know how specific we've ever gotten on a forum type conversation. And I think part of this, or at least from staff's point of view, may be coming, gosh, I want to say coming out of the pandemic, but it feels like we're right back smack in the middle of it. But things have changed in how we engage with our park system or with art in general. I see Sarah popped on and put her hand up, so I'll defer to her.
I was just going to chime in and say, I think something that may provide some bones for this summit and maybe future summits is the public forum process that the Arts Council conducted back in 2018 as part of the Arts and Culture Plan, comp plan amendment drafting. I wasn't here for that work, the beginning of that work, but we do still have a lot of documentation of how that was formed. And I think based on some of our conversations about what an arts summit might look like going forward, I think that would be a good place to start in terms of like high level need and how to frame questions, and also even just who to invite, you know, those types of things. So yeah, that's a great suggestion, Suzanne. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll definitely go back to the archives and pull what's relevant.
Yes, Rachel.
So I have several questions. I will say those for the subcommittee, which I hope it can be placed on. However, one clarifying question, Ryan, did I hear you correctly that you said March 2022 was the month that you're identifying for this?
April 2022? Yes.
April. Okay. Okay.
Did I say 2021?
No. You,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just spring. I guess I was thinking further out. So.
Fantastic. I would say that, and I think this is a conversation that can happen on the subcommittee, but I think it would be really, really important that we are, the subcommittee is in agreement about the survey that does go out and how it's worded. I think that's really, really important. I will say from personal experience that I did not love the last Parks and Rec survey because it was not worded in the way that I would have answered it. So I think that'll be a really important part. But again, I think that's something that the subcommittee can work on. So
if I could just add one more thing to Rachel's comment, April feels really close, and it is, but there is a rationale to why, and that being that our next biannual budget is 23-24, and the input that we receive through this, even if it's a more limited and expedited process that we go through to start this engagement, I hope it's something that's reoccurring at least biannually, but that will help to inform our budgetary requests in that 23-24 time period. So that's sort of why time is of the essence to push this one forward, and maybe I was really pushing for us to get these items through tonight.
So this idea of a survey, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but to reach the whole of Mercer Island and to get it publicized and get answers in, it seems a little unrealistic to do that by April. Is it unrealistic, or is that feasible?
I wouldn't say it's unrealistic, but I think it's important to know the focus of what was put forward within the work plan was specific to arts and culture groups, artists, community organizations. And so it's not necessarily everyone on the island, though we would welcome the input, I think. It's really focused to those providers and those stakeholders within the arts and culture community. And I'm seeing heads nodding, so I must be speaking correctly on my recollection of how that priority was developed.
And when we're talking about in the community, arts organizations, do we include arts organizations that are based outside Mercer Island, but which come in and provide arts events to Mercer Island? Because that seems important, as well as entities or organizations or groups that are on the island.
This would be part of the subcommittee work, I think, to establish what groups they're targeting. My understanding, and Sarah, I would look to you to kind of jump. Wow, you were quick to turn your camera off there. My understanding when we were developing this work plan and these goals were to focus on the Mercer Island groups and organizations specifically, knowing though that there are regional organizations that we may be soliciting in the future to deliver different arts and culture services or programs here on Mercer Island. But this was more specific to our current stakeholders, or our resident stakeholders, I should say.
Thanks.
Sarah, was I close on your recollection?
Yep, and I can expand on that just to say that you maybe think about this type of art summit as, if you've been kind of following the arts and culture revitalization work that's been happening during the pandemic in the region, looking at how different pockets of the region have been impacted, and specific groups within your city. Lots of cities, the county through For Culture, as well as other organizations like Arts Fund, have really been doing similar things, trying to track how organizations have been impacted by the pandemic, how it's affected services, and then how that can inform future delivery of services and programs. And so I think that, based on where we were last year from an arts and culture delivery perspective, city services perspective, this is really going to inform that, like, how we build back piece. So like Ryan said, our primary stakeholders to start, so that would be definitely organizations like MyVol. So great that we have Carol here and Claudia as well, and other members of MyVol. But also, I could envision organizations such as Seattle Shakespeare Company participating in conversations like this, because prior to the pandemic, Wooden O was a pretty cornerstone arts organization delivering services on the island. So we will work with the subcommittee to identify that list of stakeholders. I think that is another area where each of you individually can provide input, as you're working on your paragraph of desired outcomes, include the organizations or even individuals, specific artists. It doesn't just have to be like organization in the way we think about organization. It could even be creative businesses. Some of the few galleries we have on the island, like, I can anticipate them being interested in participating in something like this, because they may also be the ones who are delivering more core services in the future, or at least partnering with the city and other organizations on those types of projects. So I think that would be great if you all could add that to your list of to-dos as well, to send to Raven and to help prepare the subcommittee.
Thank you so much, Rosemary, for your questions, and Ryan and Sarah for your clarification. That is fantastic. I think we're really I'll keep coming back to the same point, that this is stuff that we really want the subcommittee to figure out. And so I would encourage everyone to, if you have an interest in serving on that subcommittee, to go ahead and send that email to staff. And if there's no other comments, then I think we can move on.
Sorry, one more comment.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
How do we put the pitch to the people that are not here tonight? So, how do we invite them to be on the subcommittee? How do we get that message to them, what that committee is trying to achieve, and that opportunity is available for them?
My recommendation is just put them on the subcommittees and don't tell them. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Work for me.
I do want, one of the things with our new meeting schedule being quarterly, it is extremely important that we all stay up on our communication, both via email, but also phone calls. And so my anticipation is myself and possibly the chair reaching out to those individuals and strongly encouraging participation on these different subcommittees. And some have already voiced their willingness. So I think that's really important to know, that we do have an arts council that is, even though we have some members missing today, there is continued engagement and a want to participate in these subcommittees that were such a discussion last year as we were developing the, what were our priorities and whatnot. So yes, we will be engaging with them directly, probably as soon as tomorrow.
Nice. Thank
Fantastic.
you. Thank you
It
very
looks
much.
like Rachel needs to go, so I
I'm
thank you
sorry, I need
for
to go,
being
but
here.
I will look
Absolutely.
forward to following up with staff and committee members soon.
Fantastic. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks for coming, and we got something done.
Yay. So since Rachel has to leave us, I'm not sure that we can get to the next order of business. Is that right, Ryan?
That is correct. Other than I can let this group know you have seen the staff report. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. We can't make any actions, obviously, but I'm happy to answer any of your questions you may individually have. And this would be a topic. I don't want to say that this one has the ability to wait a little bit longer. Staff is doing some groundwork right now on the policy development, figuring out where some of our gaps may be, which I think the Arts Council actually already did a bulk of that identification in 2021 for the 2022 work plan. So what this would be in this subcommittee would be focused on working with staff in the development or updates of different policies. And the item number 4 that we were going to have tonight on Prairie of Possibilities was going to help inform some of those policy needs that we've identified. So what I would recommend, the staff recommendation here would be to allow staff to go out and work with the individual Arts Council members and to solicit them onto a committee. We wouldn't be formally, recommending that committee right now, obviously, but we can start to get the Arts Council members thinking about partaking in those duties. So if you're comfortable with that, that would be the direction I would go.
So does that mean you will be contacting us all about our interest in that?
Yes. The way I would foresee it working is I would send you an email to the full Arts Council, asking them to respond back with the interest they have on a specific committee, whether it be the previously talked about or the what we'll call the Policy and Procedure Committee. And then Chair Mitchell would go then and assign members based on their interest to those different committees. And again, we could only have 3 members on a given committee.
Are there any other questions in regard to the things that we've discussed thus far?
I think my only question would be when the email is likely to go out, just so I can.
Right. So I would make a request of staff to send out an email following up on what we have been able to discuss this evening and the things that we were not able to get to, and look for interest. And the other thing that I would ask just in real time here, Ryan, is do we need to schedule another meeting before our next meeting in order to go over some of these things? So our next meeting is April 20th, which is pretty far out.
Let's see. To answer your first question, emails going out. I can probably get to that by Friday, which would be a recap of this meeting, as well as the solicitation of members to be on those different committees.
Great.
In respect to adding an additional meeting, I would leave that to Arts Council leadership if there's a desire. If we have the subcommittees, staff preference would be to focus staff time on working with those individual committees ahead of April, to progress forward, and then come to that April meeting. That's going to be a meaty meeting, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, meaty meeting, but it's going to be a focused discussion on what are our priorities going into 23-24. That's going to be really important because we're starting that development of that budget, like I mentioned right then. The arts and the policy and procedure work is going to be critical at that meeting as well. So I anticipate a few recommendations, even a potential draft policy on a few items to come forward in April for the full Arts Council to review and, if warranted, take action on of an endorsement. So that's just my standpoint. If the chair, vice chair, and members desired to have an additional special meeting, that's something staff would be willing to support.
Fantastic. Thanks for that clarification, Ryan. At this point in time, what I would request again is the email to be sent out to all Arts Council members, especially those not in attendance tonight, and clarification on what's been discussed and what needs to be discussed. The other thing that I think really needs to be made clear, and I would appreciate you including in the email, is how important attendance is at these meetings, considering that we're only doing for a year. It's really hard to get things done if we don't have a quorum. So recognize that Rachel signed on to the Arts Council. She already had this as a previous commitment, but I think it's really important to emphasize the importance of attendance when we're only do 4 meetings a year. So if you could include that in the email, that would be fantastic. Yes, Rosemary.
I assume it's okay, otherwise staff wouldn't be suggesting it. But you're talking about forming a second committee without a motion?
No. We agreed on the subcommittee for the Arts Summit. We voted on that.
Cool.
I'm not looking to form a committee for the the policy and procedure needs. At this time, what I'm requesting of Ryan is to get information out about what that would be. Is that where you are standing there, Ryan? Is that?
So in reviewing the bylaws earlier today, you do have the ability to form a committee. It doesn't have to be something that's recommended. Our bylaws are open enough to be able to do that. I prefer generally for the council to provide the direction on that. But I think if we wanted to put the offer out there for this subcommittee, that would be more than appropriate. We have the ability to establish it outside of a motion or a vote.
Is there a timeline that you need prior to April for the City Arts Policy and Procedure Committee to be established?
Ideally, sometime by late February would be a goal, so that we can do some initial work over the next 2 months going into April, which would help us sort of identify the priority of procedures or policies to move forward. And I think this, to highlight the temporary art installations and things of that nature, that's really helpful input to receive guidance on going into an April meeting. It's
Okay.
not absolutely necessary by any means.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say it's not absolutely necessary. Staff could work on that independently, given the direction that's already been provided through the work plan. But if there was a subcommittee, that does maybe save us a meeting in the future to be a little bit more efficient with a recommendation that goes forward.
Okay, Suzanne, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I would kind of lean towards establishing both subcommittees in the same email. And I'd also suggest doing some kind of Google Doc or whatever availability, so that if you don't want people crossing,
right,
say, I'll be on this committee, but I can't meet any of those dates. So I think you just need to just charge ahead and say, we already have the committee for the gathering the input. I think you need a schedule that goes out with your request to sign up for that committee, because if you're not available to sign up to be at the meetings, then you probably shouldn't be signing up. So we just probably, based on Elizabeth's schedule, whatever day of the week, time of the day she can be there, then, or prefers to say, we're going to meet every other week on a Tuesday night at 6:30. I think that needs to be in the email, because otherwise we're going to end up, chasing our tails.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Suzanne, for that feedback. Can I just ask casually of the 2 members that are here, even though we can't vote or have a quorum, if you would be comfortable going forward in the way that Suzanne has suggested, that these without a vote on establishing this second subcommittee?
I would be comfortable. I'm a little worried about about there being no choice as to a date and time, because I don't think that should necessarily be the criteria for the committee membership. Maybe, and I totally understand that you don't want to get it overly complicated. So I understand where Suzanne's coming from. I'm just thinking that maybe a couple of choices so that there can be, it's not just, oh, so-and-so can't be on the committee because they're not available that time. It
That's
seems a
fine.
little
That's
unfair.
fine. You can try the best date. I mean,
Exactly. I don't think that's what
pick
Suzanne was.
three best dates that 3 people on the committee can be there. I'm just saying, if you can't get 3, I don't care if she throws out 20 dates, but at the end, 3 people have to say, I can make those 3 meetings.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's just a mess. I mean, it's just not fair to anybody, especially Elizabeth and Ryan trying to organize our schedules. You know, we just I think there has to be a commitment to at least 3 meetings early on to get the work underway. Otherwise, April will, I mean, you actually said March when, you know, you want it done in April. So this is the end of February. So you've got, the end of January. Whew. So
Don't go that far, Suzanne. I'm not ready.
Yeah, I mean, you basically have 8 weeks. Let's get some dates and find out who can be available and has the interest.
That sounds fantastic. Ryan?
If my suggestion is in a similar vein, and this worked really well with the Luther Burbank Dock Subcommittee out of the Parks and Recreation Commission. We solicited interest. We had 3 or 4 members who were interested, and we basically staff punted it to them to figure out what works for you 3. Tell us, I shouldn't say I can flip my schedule real easy, but I can be more available and flexible because that's my job. So I'd rather, meet the needs of those interested before establishing too hard of a set of dates outside of knowing what people's availability might be. And it could be evenings. Evenings are great for me, or even if it was a weekend meeting, I think that would be appropriate if it meets the schedule needs of the council members. So my recommendation might be, let me work with the chair to figure out who we can get on these committees, get them signed up for figured out what meeting dates work for them, and staff will make it work.
Yes, that sounds great, Ryan. I have to say, I am very familiar with Google poll as when you try to get 18 professional singers together to do a project. Yes, so that sounds like a great way to do it. So I would say that going forward, again, since we can't have any more voting and we don't have a quorum, I love the input from Suzanne and Rosemary. My goal going forward, again, would be to send out an email from the staff to let everyone on the Arts Council know what these committees are and to solicit interest in them. And then we can work on scheduling from there. But let's find the interest first. That would be my first goal. And again, the importance of meeting attendance, especially with the full Arts Council going forward, I think is really important. So,
can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
How many meetings are you anticipating, and the duration? So how many hours of a commitment are you asking from each possible committee?
I'm looking at about 3 to 4 would be my request. 3 to 4 meetings of 1 hour.
Okay.
Yeah, really the subcommittee's role is to help provide guidance. It's not necessarily developing product or anything like that. It's providing direction, assisting in the support there to push the agenda item or the work item forward. So staff would be responsible for the actual output. These meetings would be pretty focused in moving that topic forward.
great. That is really helpful information.
That
People
is
need
helpful.
to know what they're committing to.
Right.
And in the email, that would be great as well. So for now, I think that we should move forward with emails and communicating. I think another thing you can note is making sure that people have access to their Mercer Island emails. I have everything. I have like 4 different emails between school and Mercer Island and my women's ensemble, and it all just gets filtered into the same inbox, which is really helpful. So again, if staff can be there as tech support in any way that anybody needs it to make sure everybody's getting communication, I think that's super important. And any feedback or concerns, I would ask please to give to staff that we can figure out if we do decide we need to have a meeting before April 20th. But I think going forward, it would be great to get these subcommittees figured out and start getting some work done. Are there any other questions or comments this evening before we end?
No, thank you for the clear direction. This was a quick but very effective meeting to move work plans forward. So thank you.
All right, wonderful. So I would like to also thank Mayor Salim Neese for joining us this evening, and our Arts Council liaison, Carol Whitaker, staff for being here. And since there's no other business to come before the Arts Council, the time is now 7:15. Is that a record? It might be a record. The meeting is adjourned. As a reminder to members to stay seated or on your camera until staff has terminated the Zoom broadcast. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Stay safe and healthy.